Hi, Real McRae here for the third day of the Dark Shadows. I did it again. Wishful thinking. Third day for the Star Trek experiment, and it's starting to get good. But I realized I won't say my big mistake, but I will say I realized the consequence of my decision to do the series parallel, and it's this. You know, when these shows get into their third and fourth seasons and get really good, that's going to be great, because it's going to be one great episode after another. But I realize now I am spreading out the season 1 awkwardness of all of the shows day after day after day, and so each of them is improving glacially. Boy, that's taken a while, I gotta tell you. However, this too shall pass. Yesterday got pretty rough. I mean, I was going very stir crazy, and special thanks to my friend William, who came by and kind of fished me out. I appreciate that. So other things that are going on. Yeah, I wonder if I should have just watched all of one show and then all of another show and all of another show. And I still say no. I still say this is a much more interesting way to do it. I'm seeing them all in comparison with each other. And here's a wacky coincidence that occurred. A bunch of courtroom/detective style dramas, one after another. Next Generation did Justice, which is the planet of the Californians, where Wesley falls in some flowers and so on and so forth. And it's a pretty dumb episode, so I thought. But then Picard gives his first really great Captain Kirk-like speech about, you know, in this case, it's a speech about moral relativism, which is not something you expect to hear Picard talk about. But he does, and he does so really well. It's you know, most of the time when you hear about moral relativism, it's from some hand-wringer who's terrified that someone's going to take a stand on something. And, you know, I could go into a lot of political stuff, and I won't. Not really for fear of offending someone, but for fear of offending someone and then having to get into some long email exchange about it. So I'll just say that moral relativism maybe has two sides to it. Anyway, Picard gives a great speech about that, and then there's kind of a gumshoe detective thing where Tom Paris, it's ex post facto on Voyager, and he gets accused of a crime he didn't commit. And then we have the episode Dax, which is, I think, the most unimaginative of all DS9 episode titles, where Sisko has to defend Dax, who's on trial. It's pretty interesting. For the murder of one of the previous Dax host things, because she's the new host, she has to go on trial for the old host, and somebody did that to Leno. Anyway, other things of note, I'm just going to kind of fly through this. Yeah, I liked ex post facto. I just wrote at one point on Twitter, Neelix. Oh, Neelix, it's going to be a long summer. Enterprise's Breaking the Ice, I thought was very good. It had a lot of wanderlust to it, and Scott Bakula, who was a fine choice. It's kind of like Bruce Boxleitner. You're not going to have controversy when you have Scott Bakula. You're going to have a very stable show. I feel like Scott Bakula and Bruce Boxleitner are the sort of guys that you hire when you're tired as a TV producer and you just want someone who will show up and be nice. And be good. And that's what Scott does. He's not going to cause a lot of trouble. He's not going to do anything like that. He'll be supportive of his castmates. He's not going to cause any diva fits. And the nice thing about a guy like Scott Bakula, though, is that he's very sincere, and he can actually pull off a kind of a throat-choking, tear kind of jerking moment. And he did that. And it was just a small moment, but they are grimacing their way through a classroom response. Some school kids have written in letters to the NX-01 in Breaking the Ice, which is the one where they land on the comet. I would like to think the comet from the beginning of DS9. And they're answering these questions, and they're pretty, typical school kid questions, and they're very awkward. And then Archer finishes it with a moment that's very sincere. And it was just this beautiful Star Trek moment of, that's why we're out here, and it was very optimistic, and of course it was written before 9/11. I don't know if it was filmed before 9/11, but it was written before 9/11. Or before everyone thought they had to do TV responding to 9/11. And I've had it with 9/11. I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but I have had it with gritty television. I've had it with too much arc-driven television. DS9 did it really well. So I guess I have to thank Straczynski for that. But then I can curse Straczynski. Oh, wait a minute, he didn't invent it. The inventors of soap operas invented it. For all of the other arc-driven stuff, I can't even watch a TV show now because I have to start from the beginning, and it's all arc-driven. And sometimes I just want a modular television show, and these shows are actually refreshing at this point because they are modular. I can pretty much start anyone with any of these episodes, and with a minimum of explanation get people in, and that I'm really happy about. But with this gritty TV, forget it. I'll take a corny Jonathan Archer speech any day at this point than have to deal with that. And I hope you feel the same way. I have students, and they don't even know what the world was before 9/11. All they know is the post 9/11 world, and so it's not that depressing to them. But I watch an episode of Enterprise like Civilization, which was wonderful, or Breaking the Ice, which William found really boring, but I thought was good. And I just think I want optimistic, straightforward, non-morally ambiguous stories about humans doing cool things and going neat places and encountering foreign races and shooting them, and that's what Star Trek's about. And I think about what a downer culture we lived in for so long after the Kennedy assassination and Vietnam War, and then Star Wars came along and pulled us out of that. But nothing as big as Star Wars has come along to do that. And there is so much of everything now that, sure, Harry Potter made a ton, but it didn't have the same cultural saturation. And Avatar's all about 9/11. Oh, by the way, we're the bad guys. Anyway, you watch something like this. I watched something like what I watched yesterday with the best of these episodes, and I was reminded of why I started watching these episodes in the first place. So say we all.